Welcome back, Pauls. Let's see what is the new case with Mr. Drew. Let's go straightly back to the chapter. It's chapter 5 The Unexpected Prowler. An embezzlement case? Nancy was excited. What she wondered did her father want her to do? The young detective longed to place a call to him immediately but knew she must wait until 8 o'clock. Where's Mrs. Glenson's sister? She asked. Hannah said that the woman has left a short while before after hearing that Nancy would be home by supper time. But first, she fixed a chicken casserole dish for us, Hannah added. It's all ready to pop in the oven. My dear, I hate to bother you. Nancy grinned mischievously and teased. You mean you hate to have anyone else but you reaching in your kitchen? Don't worry, Hannah. I'll be neat. Oh, posh, said Hannah. She blushed and gave Nancy a loving glance. Hummingly softly, Nancy went to the modern pink and white kitchen. The casserole, which looked tempting, stood on one of the gleaming countertops. After lighting the oven, Nancy placed the dish inside to heat. She set two wooden trays with dollies, napkins, and silver. Then, after placing bread and butter on each, Nancy poured 2 glasses of milk. Lastly, she made a crispy salad of lettuce and tomatoes and marinated it with a tangy French dressing. While waiting for the casserole, Nancy went back to the living room. Hannah was reading the evening newspaper. You're a wonderful help, dear, the housekeeper said, gratefully looking up. Tell me, did you enjoy your vacation? It was lovely, said Nancy, and described the resort. She then told Hannah of the adventure on Twin Lakes and Laura Pendleton and the Aubons. Hannah, wouldn't it be nice if Laura could visit us sometime soon? It certainly would. By now their supper was ready and Nancy brought it on the trays. After they had eaten, she put the dishes in the washer, then helped Hannah, who was using crutches, upstairs to bed. Nancy then went out to put her car in the garage and they returned to the house just as the clock was striking 8. She went to place the call to Carlson Drew. Nancy looked on the series of numbers on the slip of paper Hannah had given her. 942 HA 54727. She dialed the long-distance number and after one brief ring, the phone on the other end was picked up. Hotel Willingston. The switchboard operator answered. May I speak with Mr. Carlson Drew? His daughter requested. One moment, please. There was a pause, then the operator's voice said, I'm sorry, but Mr. Drew checked out this evening. Did he say where he was going? Nancy inquired in amazement. The desk clerk said no. Nancy thanked him and hung up, feelingly oddly upset. It was unlike her father to change his plans without calling home to tell where he would be. Could anything had happened to him? She wondered. Since Hannah was asleep, Nancy did not awaken her to discuss the matter. Leaving on a light in the lower hall, she went to her own room and unpacked deep in thoughts. As she hung up her dresses in the closet, the young sleuth wondered if her father might be following a new clue in another city. Deciding that this probably was what had happened and that she would hear from her father the next morning, Nancy felt reassured, took a bath, and went to bed. She fell asleep almost immediately. Several hours later, Nancy was awakened by the sound of a dull thud. She sat up and groped for the bedside light. Turning it on, she got out of the bed and slipped into a robe and slippers. I hope Hannah hasn't fallen out of bed, Nancy thought worriedly and hurriedly down the carpeted hall to the housekeeper's room. Peering in the bedroom door, Nancy saw that Hannah was sound asleep. Puzzled, Nancy went back to her own room. The girl detective had almost decided she was been dreaming. Then she heard an even louder noise. The creaky window in the ground floor library was being opened. Someone was entering the house. Alarmed, Nancy decided to call the police and tiptoed to the bedside telephone in Miss Drew's room. When the sergeant answered, she told him she would unlock the front door. Nancy tiptoed quietly down the stairs. Upon reaching the ground floor, she eyed the closed door of the library, located at the far end of the living room. Not a sound came from the library, which Mr. Drew used as a study. With bated breath, Nancy moved towards the front door and opened it. At that instant, the library door was flung open. A man's dark figure was outlined in the doorway. Nancy's heart skipped 3 beats. As Nancy debated whether to run outdoors or upstairs, she heard a loud chuckle. At the same time, a table lamp was turned on. Dad! Cried Nancy in disbelief as color flooded back into her face. Is it really you? Of course, said Carlson Drew, a tall, distinguished-looking man who right now seemed a little bit sheepish. He placed the briefcase he was carrying on a table, then walked towards Nancy with outstretched arms. His daughter rushed into them and gave Mr. Drew a loving kiss. You are the best-looking burglar I've ever seen, Nancy looked glad and told her father of fearing the house was being entered. Then she clasped her hands to her face. The police! I notified the police when I heard the window creaking open. At that very moment, father and daughter heard a car stop outside. 2 policemen rushed in. Where's the burglar? Right here, Mr. Drew confessed. I forgot my house key. Sorry to put you in this trouble. The The policeman grinned and once said, I wish all our burglars' case were solved this easy. A few minutes later, the officers left. Mr. Drew exclaimed to Nancy that he has hesitated about ringing the doorbell and disturbing Mrs. Gren and Nancy. Recalling the one of the window in the library did not close completely and needed repair, he removed the screen and opened the window. I'm sorry I scared you. I flew home tonight rather unexpectedly and didn't have a chance to let you know, Nancy. Has there been a new development in your embezzlement case, Dad? She inquired. Mr. Drew nodded. Yes, but since it's late, I suggest we both go to bed. We can talk about it in the morning. Nancy stifled a yawn. Good idea, she agreed. Father and daughter turned off the lights and went upstairs. Both slept soundingly until 8 o'clock the following morning. Then Nancy was awakened by Hannah. Get up, sleepyhead, said the housekeeper. Teasingly, she prodded Nancy's foot with the tip of a wooden crutch while leaning on another one. It's a beautiful day. Nancy jerked awake, rubbing her eyes. Hannah, she gasped. What are you doing up? The housekeeper smiled. One day of staying off my feet will keep me well for a year, she declared. Besides, I'm feeling fine this morning. But Dr. Darby said, Nancy began. Stuff and nonsense, Hannah replied tacitly. He left me these crutches to use, and that's what I intended to do with them. Nancy, is your father home? I notice his door is closed. Yes, Hannah, Nancy related the burglar's scare. The housekeeper smiled in amusement. Then, with a squish of her skirt, she turned and crumpled out of the room. She paused at the door, winked at Nancy and said, Pancakes and sausages at 8:30, and you tell your dad that I'm going to squeeze some extra juicy oranges. Mr. Drew was awake also. Nancy could hear the buzz of his electric razor. It was good, she thought, for the little family to be home again. In half an hour, they were seated in the cheerful breakfast room. As they began to eat, Mr. Drew caught up on the latest news and listened with concern to the story of Nancy's two storm adventures. I'm grateful that you're here safely beside me, he said gravely. When the lawyer heard about Laura Pendleton and her bonds, he frowned. I agree with you, Nancy. It does sound strange, he said, but you should not interfere with Laura and her guardians unless she asks you to. They may turn out to be very nice people. I agree, said Hannah, then added pointedly, but if things should prove otherwise, Mr. Drew, then I'd be happy to help Laura have another guardian appointed by the court, the lawyer replied. In the meantime, Nancy, let's invite Laura to spend a few days with us very soon. Nancy beamed. Thanks, Dad. That's just what I wanted to do. When the meal was finished and the dishes had been put in the washer, Mr. Drew and Nancy went to his study, a comfortable room with book-lined shelves, deep-seated leather chairs, and a wide, high-polished mahogany desk. Nancy sat down in a yellow club chair, then said eagerly, Come on, Dad, don't hold out to me longer about this case of yours. Mr. Drew smiled and absently fingered a glass paperweight. Sitting down, he began to talk. Mr. Drew's client, Mr. Stewart, was the president of the Monroe National Bank in the Monroe. It had branches throughout the country, including one in River Heights. During a recent audit, many valuable securities has been discovered missing from the main bank's vault. Most of the securities were bonded with rent payable to bearer. How dreadful, said Nancy. It means that whoever has the bonds can cash them? That's right, Mr. Drew said that the bonds belong to various bank clients throughout the country. In all cases, the clients has inherited money and had asked the bank as custodian to invest it for them. Mr. Hamilton was put in charge. This was very common bank procedure. The bank made the investments and paid the divergence to the individual, thus relieving the persons of handling his own transactions. I was called in on the case, Carlson Drew said, by Mr. Sill, manager of our River Heights branch, where Mr. Seward advised him that a number of the missing securities belonged to residents in our community. Mr. Seward felt this was an odd coincidence. It is, Nancy agreed. Have you any idea who might have taken the property? Mr. Drew said no. So far, the evidence pointed to Mr. Hamilton, although the man was a highly trusted officer. What about the people who work in the vaults? Nancy asked, wrinkling her forehead. They are being checked on now. Most of these employees have worked for a bank a long time, however. At present, 2 of them are on vacation, so the investigation may take some time. Couldn't you find out where they went? Nancy asked. We have tried that, her father replied, but they are not at their homes and the neighbors don't know where they are vacating. We'll just have to wait until the men get home. I see, Nancy agreed. The main thing is, said Mr. Drew, that Mr. Seward doesn't want any publicity about the theft. The bank will continue to pay dividends to the security holders, of course. My assignment is to find the missing property and the guilty persons. A big order, said Nancy. How are you going to do this? Carlson Drew said he was presently checking on the employees other than Hamilton who was working in the custodian department. Also, he was trying to find out if there might be a tie-in between the thief and one or more of the persons whose property was missing. There must be several people behind this theft, the lawyer exclaimed. It's pretty difficult in these times to rob a bank with all the security measures they employ. Nothing is impossible, however, if a plan is well worked out. Sounds like an exciting case, Dad, said Nancy. What can I do to help? In reply, Mr. Drew gave Nancy a slip of paper with 4 names on it and their corresponding River Heights addresses. They were Mrs. William Farley, Mr. Herbert Brown, Mrs. John Stewart, Mr. Stephen Tout. None of the names was familiar to the young detective. These are the local people whose securities are missing, Mr. Drew said. Think of some reason to meet these people, he directed. See what kind of homes they have and try to get an insight into their characters. This is a very vague assignment, but I feel you may find out something incriminating about one of them. You see, we have to be very careful not to arouse suspicion in a case of this type. I'll do my best, Nancy assured him. The out-of-town names I'll check myself, her father explained. They live in various large cities around the country, so I'll have to be away a good bit during the next few weeks. I'll get busy on these names right away, Nancy said. She gave her father a quick hug. You're an odd dear to let me help you. Promise me you'll be careful, the lawyer warned. An embezzler can be a dangerous person, and in the case whoever is behind the thefts is playing for big stakes. The young sleuth said she would take every precautions. As Nancy stood up, the telephone rang. I'll get it, Dad, she offered and hurried to pick up the receiver of the hall phone. A low-pitched feminine voice said tearlessly, Nancy Drew. Yes, this is Nancy speaking. As she held on, waiting for the caller's identification, she heard someone on a scuffle on the other end of the receiver. This was followed by a cry of pain and a loud crash. Oh my God, was that Laura or someone else? Stay tuned for the next chapter, guys. Have a happy day.